Hello, this is Pamela with Pamela's Portrayals, and today we're going to work on a painting that I'm taking some information from Bob Ross. Bob Ross was not someone that I watched a lot. I may have seen maybe 2 or 3 of his programs in my entire life, but the other day, since we're quarantined in, Max and I was going through YouTube and just looking at some different art styles and everything, and we came across this one, and I told Max, I said, wait a minute, stop, I've never seen Bob Ross do anything like this. So you may be used to seeing the little houses on a hill or a mountain glacier or waterfall or something, but this was a technique that I've never seen him do before, and I really liked it. So what I've done is this will be the first phase of the painting. I just wanted to show you what we're going to do in the first phase, and then there's a second part of the painting that's really going to make this pop. Now, some people might like to stop right here. They might like the black and the white and the gray, but I am going to go through and do the entire painting, but this is where we're going to start with this look. So what I've done is I've taken an 8x10 canvas, and I've used gesso. It is a primer for canvas. You can use it for other things too. But I've taken some gesso, and you can get white gesso, you can get black gesso, or you can tint your own. But I've got the gesso here on my plate, and I added some black paint to it, and I mixed it together, and I just painted this entire canvas. And what I'm going to do now, well, let me tell you what I'm going to be using. So in this painting, we're going to use one of these sponge brushes. If you don't have a sponge brush, just try to use a large flat brush. But I'm going to be using, this is what he used, that's what I'm going to use. And we're also going to be using a round brush. If you have a rigger brush or a liner brush, that would be better. I don't have one with me right now, so I'm going to use this round brush. So I've got the black painted on, and what I'm going to do now, and what he did, is he took a paper towel, and he wadded it up, and he dipped into his white gesso.
Now the black's completely dried, right?
The black is completely dry, yes. Okay, and then he came and he just started dabbing it on. And this here, this darker white part is going to be where your light source is coming from. So we're going to make it darker and more solid, and then we're going to just kind of lighten that up as we go out. Now this is a small canvas. I'm not going to be able to get all the trees in that I got in mine. But this is going to give you an idea of how to do this painting. And it's just, I mean, the final effect is just, I was just blown away by it. I absolutely loved it. So what we're going to do, we kind of want that to be kind of round. And then go out from there. Doesn't have to be perfect, but try to get it as round as you can, because that's going to be our source for our light. And then I'm going to come out here, and of course it's going to get lighter, less white as we get closer to the edge. I have to lift this up here for a minute. I'm not doing this exactly as he did it, but it's really close. And then, as you can see, this is my, just want to make sure that that's really nice, and I think that looks pretty good. Okay, I think we're going to stop there for this part. Now, we're going to let this completely dry, and then we'll come back and put in the other items.
You're recording, so just start when you're ready.
Okay, so now this is really dry, and you may want to wear gloves with this. It is a little bit messy. So since this is a smaller canvas, I think I'm going to do a black tree, a gray tree, and a white tree, and I'm going to do 2 black, a gray, and a white over here. So Bob Ross used this to do his, and what he did is he took some of the gesso and mixed it with the black. And then he just came in and did a straight line. Well, that's a little too gray, I think. So I'm going to add some more black. And I'm going to put 2 over here. But yeah, he just came in and did a straight line and another straight line. It doesn't have to be straight, it can be a little bit angled. Your trees aren't particularly straight in the forest. Now I'm going to use gray, so I'm going to mix some of the gesso with the black. And I'm going to go back and paint this a darker black. And we'll have a gray one here. And maybe a gray one here. And now I need white. So I need to clean my brush. And while I'm getting that all cleaned off. I was just thinking, if I had done that the opposite way, if I had started with the white, then added a little black, and then added just the black, I probably could have went without cleaning my brush off. It's, like I said, it's pretty messy. Okay, so I'm going to get the white, and I'm dipping in here just on the edge. This has a, okay. And so I'm going to put the white one right there. And I'm getting some more white, and I'm going to put it right here. And so I haven't come all the way down. This down here is going to be my ground cover. As a matter of fact, I may go up. And then he took it and he kind of started putting the white in here like this. Get some more paint. I've actually got too much white there. We want it to kind of look like it's some kind of vegetation or something here. So what I'm going to do, with this being so short, I just don't have a lot of room to work. I'm going to come back and I'm going to get some more black. I'm going to wipe the white off of my brush as best I can. I don't really want to get it wet again. But I'm going to come in with the black like that, and I'm going to put a little pathway here. Now there is another way you can do this. You could, instead of going down as far as I did with this white up here, you could leave this black and then just put your white on top of it. But I'm going to come back and add some black here because we'd have shadows in there. maybe have a little bit of gray. So I'm going to mix on my plate. I've got black on there, so I just dipped it a little bit in the white gesso. And I'm just going to kind of go in and make some darker stuff in there. I'm going to go back with my just plain black and darken up these trees because I want them black. I want you to be able to tell the difference between them and the gray ones. And we'll darken that one. Okay, I think that looks better. It's a little thin on the top, so I'm going to just kind of make it a little bit thicker. And a little bit thicker here. Your base is always going to be thicker than the top of your tree. Okay, so I think that's looking pretty good. I'm going to rinse that now. And I'm going to come back and add some white. I've got some gray and some black on my ground level. And this is just really messy working with that foam. I need some more paper towel. Excuse me. Okay, so you've got that. You want to get all of the paint out of this brush so you can use it again. Okay, now that I've got my trees basically in, I'm gonna kind of let this dry, and then I'm gonna add my white back down there. So while that's drying, I'm going to go ahead and put in my limbs. So for that, I take the white, or the round brush, and I'm going to come in and just put some limbs in. And you can just put them wherever you want. If you have a rigger brush, it gives you some nice, like, wiggly lines. That turned into a little bit of gray there. And just fill in any areas that you think don't have enough of the paint. I'm going to go over here and do this white one. And make that a little bit wider right there. And paint that in a little whiter. Just putting some more gesso on it. It's kind of hard to see that white on top of the other white. And you want, this is kind of thick, so I'm going to thin it out just a little bit. So it'll go on smoother. If your paint is too thick, you're going to have your lines too thick. I don't want all of them to be really thick lines. I want some of them to be thin. Okay, now I'm going to do my gray. So I'm going to mix just a little bit of the black in with my white to get gray, and a little bit of water that's just to thin it out a little bit. We're going to come in and do some, that's a little too light, it doesn't match the trunk, so I'm going to add some more black. And just a touch more water, a little bit more water. Go back over this. A bit more water. And I'm going to do this one over here. This white is still wet, and if I take this gray into the white area, it's just going to smear, I think. A little bit more water. It's just kind of thick, and like I said, when your paint is thick, it will make your lines thick, and then you can't get the smaller lines that you would want. Make that a little thicker up here. One over here, and maybe one in there. And I'm going to go ahead and pull one right here. See how I went right through that white and it just lightened it. I'll just go back over that. I think I'll let it dry. Well, maybe not. Okay, now we're ready to get into the black. And I'm just thinning out my black. And let's come and give these trees some branches. And like I said, if you had a rigger brush, they're really long. They hold a lot of paint, but they're so easy to manipulate. That one took some of my paint off. I'll have to go back over that in a minute. And again, the white is still really wet, and you might want to let that dry before you try to do that again. And you can just make the branches however you want. Some will be thick, some will be thin. Add some more water to the black. I'm going to come back over here. Still not dry enough that I can darken that up much. Okay, so I came up here. And you can add as many branches as you want, or you don't have to add a lot at all. But the more you add, the more it's going to look like a forest. Okay. I think I feel like I need something right there. Coming right up. Add a little bit more water to my brush. I'm going to clean my brush. After a while, when you've got a lot of paint on it, it starts getting kind of gunky. You got to clean that off. Okay, we're getting really close to where we can call it quits. I'm going to put a few more lines in for branches. Use a little bit more water on that. Oops, pulled some white there. Was not wanting to do that. Darken that up. Okay, and well, let's see. I haven't worked a lot over here because this is so wet, but I feel like I need a few more little branches coming off of there. And I'm going to come back over and try to cover up this white that I brought in. Clean my brush. Get some more of the black. Now I could put a lot more in there, but I think I'm going to stop and just start on down there where our grass was. I'm going to put some more white in there. Hopefully it's had enough time to dry a little bit. Picking up my brush again and getting just a little bit of the white gesso there on the corner. And I'm going to just come back in and like around this road, I want some things put in to kind of maybe up in there. I'm gonna have to get a little bit more gesso. Not a lot. It's a very small area, so I don't need a lot. I'm just gonna kind of put the tip of my brush in there. And let's go in and put some little like grasses. And I'll do the same thing over here. Dip my brush in again, or my sponge. And I'm gonna just put some that's just kind of fallen into the roadway there, a little pathway. And you can again put as much of this in as you want, as little as you want. Just cover up a little bit here. And I'm thinking it's looking pretty good. We might just kind of call that quits. Maybe couple more right here. Okay, I think we're going to call that done for now. We're going to let this completely dry, and then we'll come back and do the second part of this. All right, so now we're going to get ready to do our glaze on top of this. I've let this sit overnight to make sure that it's really good and dry. And what I'm going to try, Bob Ross used oil paint, which oil paint has a natural luminosity to it. I am not using oil paint. I've used gesso on the background and some acrylic black paint that I mixed in with it to get the black and the gray. So what I'm going to try, I've got a little piece of paper here, watercolor paper that I put some gesso and the acrylic black paint on, and I'm going to try a glaze using acrylic ink. I'm using these two colors. And I'm also going to be using acrylic paint. If I hold it up like this, you can maybe read that. Okay. I am not adding any medium to either one of these. I am only going to use water.
But if they were happy with that, they could quit right there, right?
Yes. If you like the look of this, you could stop right here. But I'm going to see what it's going to look like. And here's my paint. I've got the acrylic paint on this side, the acrylic ink on this side. So I think I'm going to start. I'm going to put a little bit of water in my brush. And I'm going to thin out the blue a little bit. You want it to be transparent. If I hold it up, it's going to, if I turn it, it'll leak. But anyway, you want it transparent. And so let's put the acrylic ink wash on this side. And you can see that looks pretty good.
I like that.
And we'll go ahead, rinse my brush out. add a little water to the green. Now, I'm not going to be using green in my painting, I don't think. And we'll put that down here for the grass. So you can kind of see how that looks. Putting it over the black, and it doesn't really change the black, but it changes the white, which is what I wanted. So now I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to thin out the acrylic paint. And the acrylic paint is pretty thick, so we're going to want to really thin that out. There we go. And I just got a little bit of, my gesso was not dry underneath that. So I'm going to have to pull this blue paint in another section. And I'm going to thin that out over here where I'm not mixing it. Okay, so you want it to have this see-through consistency. And I'm going to try that on this side. And it is, and I made the wash pretty light, but it's a pretty light wash. You have a little bit of color, but it doesn't have the same intensity as the ink. So I'm going to add a little bit more blue. We could go with the lighter if you like the lighter blue and then probably put layers on. But I can come back with a little bit more acrylic mixed in. And I'm getting a real similar, a little bit darker. I added a little more blue. And I'm going to do the green now. And I'm going to thin that out with some water, just like I did the blue. And we'll put it over here. And I'm going to add that right down here. So I'm going to let both of these dry. They appear, when they're wet, they appeared similar. This is a lighter shade of green, that's why it looks a little more bold. But I'm kind of liking it. I think probably either one of them would work. Now, on this one, I'm going to put some more of that green up on this black. And it seems like with the acrylic paint, and I'll wait till that's dry, but it seems like you can see more of the acrylic paint than you can the acrylic ink on the black background. I don't know if I had that up high enough for you. So I'm going to come back with some of the acrylic ink, and because I didn't have a lot on the background, I'm going to let these dry and then see. You know, it may be that we may have to go back with the black if this colors it. Although as this is drying, it's less apparent. So maybe not, but it is a little duller. So we may want to go back and put some black in. But I'm thinking we're getting the look that we want with either one of these. So now I'm going to let those dry, and when I come back, I'll tell you which one I chose and why, and we'll go ahead and finish this painting. So I've let this dry really good, and you really, this is a different shade, but basically it covers the same. So here's the acrylic ink side, and there's the acrylic paint side. I've decided for this painting, I'm going to go with the acrylic ink. However, you can use the acrylic paint. All you have to do is just thin your acrylic paint down. Thin your acrylic paint down till it's real watery. I'm using a large brush, and I'm just going to start by brushing over my completely dried painting. And I'm going to get some more water. Now, if you had a larger brush, you could do the entire sky at one time. I'm going to make this a little darker. You can go over it if it's not dark enough for you. I'm going to go up here. I've got some that goes across the edge there. And I'm pulling my brush all the way across. Get a little bit more water and a little bit more blue. And we're going to pull that right down into the grassy area. I'm going to go back over this tree here. And now I'm going to clean my brush. And I'm going to get some yellow. Just a little bit of yellow, add some water to it. And I'm going to come in, and you see where the blue and the yellow meet, it makes a green. But I am going, and you can certainly just use those two colors, but since I've got some different colors, I'm going to use more. Look at how that just pops and make it come to life. I just love the way that just pops out there when you put that yellow on there. Okay. And if I wanted to put some more solid color, I could. I'm going to come this way and get these ones that are kind of up, standing up and out. And I'm going to even get, I'm going to clean my brush. I'm going to come back with a little bit of green. And I'm going to put some green in here because I like that bright green. Still leaving a little bit of the yellow. I'll put some of that bright green right up there. And then I'm going to actually come in around these edges here. I'm going to put a little bit of darker green. Just kind of drop that in a couple places. Down here. Going to come back with some yellow in some different spots. You could, now I'm coming back, you don't have to come back, you could just, you know, go over it once, but I'm just kind of adding some more color to mine. And when you put the yellow over that other green, it's just going to blend in, but it's going to be a little deeper color. You can see the difference between this side and this side over here. So I'm going to add some more yellow. And it's already mixing with the green. You could mix it with the blue. But I'm liking that. And now for my white trees, I've got some sienna color here. And I'm going to water that down, and I'm just going to kind of go in and maybe give these trees, I did not get the green out, so now I've got green, and I did not want that. So I'm going to come back and just kind of brush that off. I don't want to get it into my sky. This, I got a lot of yellow on that one. That blue underneath is mixing. And you can kind of go like that. Oops, I did not mean to do that. Let's go back with some more of this color. I'm just kind of pulling it there to the side. You could leave the tree blue if you wanted. If you let your blue dry, see mine's kind of turning green. because my blue paint is wet, and even though the sienna is a brown, it's not, it's got enough yellow in it that when it mixes, it's going to look like a yellow and a blue. So let's get some brown, more brown. And I'm going to come back and just drop some brown in there. Drop some brown over here. Notice I'm pulling my brush to the side. That kind of gives rings to the tree. Didn't do a lot of branches here. Okay, so my husband informed me he did not like the colors that I was putting on. So I'm going to change them. I just took my wet, damp paper towel and just wipe off the paint. And he wants me to put blue back on. So I've wet my brush and I come back with the blue. And I'm just going to kind of come back and color that over. This way you can see how it's going to look both ways. You can see what it would look like if you just left the blue or if you wanted to color it in like I did. So I'm going to get a little bit more water and I'm going to come back over here and add some more blue. So you can do it either way. You can color your tree, your white tree in, or you can just leave it the blue color. Okay, so now I'm ready to put, you could, if you wanted to, you could leave it right like this. I kind of like that look. But what he did is he went ahead and dried this, and then he's going to come back with the white, and I'm going to put the white right here, and we'll see how that's going to look. All right, so now we're going to go back, and like I said, you could stop at this point, but I'm going to just go ahead and finish the way that he did it. Again, this is acrylic paint and acrylic ink. You can use totally acrylic paint, but the gesso is on the back. And so we're going to have the light shining through. Let's see, where do I want, like right. So we're just going to kind of block that out. Have some when you're looking at light shining through the trees, there's like parts of the limbs and everything that you can't see. Just gonna, and then you've got that area, and then you use your foam brush and you just lightly put some gesso on that. You don't want a lot, but then you're going to come through. I'm going to show you here in a moment. It's kind of on the edge there, and oops, there's brown paint. Did not mean for that to be on there. Okay. And then you're going to be able to just kind of put some little rays, maybe peeking through. And then you're going to come back, get that paint off, and you're just going to soften that up. Maybe some out here. Got that a little too thick, so I'll have to come back. And soften that up. While I'm looking at it, I'm thinking I want to add just a little bit more of that white paint in the center, the white gesso. Make that a little darker. And I'll move my I've seen this technique used before, and I've actually used washes in my... I'm going to take this gesso right off of here. Pull it down a little bit. I've used it in some earlier paintings that I did to give it a glazed, more antique look. I used black, and I just put a real thin layer of black over things that I had painted. And I'm going to smooth that out. Just a little bit more in the middle. With that really nice and solid in the middle there. Okay, so you can call this quits. We got our colors in. This was just really a really quick painting just to show you the technique. When you're doing your trees, trees are probably the hardest part of this painting. You may want to make sure you thin your paint as you're putting the limbs in. Otherwise, they're going to be thick. I've got some of these limbs that are really too thick and branches that are too thick. but you got to just thin your paint out. Again, you can color your white trees in, or you can leave them blue. So I'm looking at this. I'm thinking I might go ahead. I'm going to see what this looks like. I hadn't planned on doing this. I'm just going to try some of that. I have a little bit of darker green that I used down here, and I'm just wondering what that would look like back here in the back, right here where this road is. I think I like that. I don't know. Can soften that look. Actually, I kind of like the way it looks on that tree over there. Because we would have some lights hitting this tree. I don't have my center solid enough. So see how it hits over here? I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but that would be what it would look like. In the forest, you'd have some of these light rays. Okay, I think we're going to call it done. And again, you can add different colors to it if you want. I'm going to do a test now. I've done some white. The background of this is all the gesso. This white is the gesso. And so my question was, would the same thing happen if I used acrylic paint? If I didn't have gesso, would it work with just plain acrylic paint? So I'm going to come back in and just kind of darken this up a little bit, just so that white really stands out. So I'm looking at it. I'm going to darken this up. You could also take a deeper shade of blue and go up here around the corners. Just kind of make that a little bit darker up there. I think it was just a little bit too light, the blue was. Let's soften that up. So yeah, I may have had it just a little bit too light. It was hard to see the rays. Okay, yeah, I think it looks better with a little bit of darker blue in there. So now I'm going to work on the white acrylic to see if you can get, when you do a wash over it, if you can get the same kind of look. And if you can, then you would actually be able to do this entire painting with white acrylic paint, because I know a lot of people may not have the gesso at home. So I'm going to dry these little pieces of paper that I've got white paint on, and I'm going to put ink on one, and I'm going to put the acrylic paint on the other, and I'll come back and let you know how that works. Okay, so I'm looking at this now, and I'm thinking I want something maybe a little farther out. So I'm going to add just a couple of really thin, whoops, that's crooked. I think I'm just gonna leave that, and I used my brush to do those. All right, so I said I was going to check what it would look like if you used acrylic paint, white acrylic paint. So I've got this, and I've got my blue ink, and I'm going to pull over the acrylic paint, and it does look like it works, but it does also, if you've got any little imperfections, like maybe your paint was thicker in one area, that kind of shows up. That was the ink. This is also the white acrylic ink, and this is acrylic paint. Now I did this on watercolor paper, and maybe the texture of the watercolor paper, I have the paint too thin, and maybe that's why you can see all those little imperfections. I don't know. It does go over it, and it may be different if it's on canvas. If you have the gesso, I would suggest using the gesso for the white. It just seems to work better, seems to cover better. This looks just, you can pick up all the texture in the paper with the paint. And this is the ink, and actually the ink might look a little bit better if you use the white acrylic paint instead of the gesso. But if you can get the gesso, I would get it. And we're going to go ahead and call this painting done. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm going to work with this idea and come up with some other paintings that we can do a glaze over, and I hope you like those too. Okay, so this is another painting I did. That was my first one, the other one, and this is my second one. And I'm using acrylic paint with this that I've thinned down really thin. And I've got a really large brush, and I'm just going to brush that blue over my completely dried painting. I'm going to get some more. I used the larger brush simply so I wouldn't have as many brush strokes if I used a smaller brush. You can definitely use a smaller brush. My cameraman is making adjustments. Okay, so I'm putting the blue on. I've got it a little bit darker on the top than I do on the bottom. And kind of like that. You know, for me, I think it would be cool if I painted the entire painting blue. You know, you could use a solid color on it, but I'm not going to. I'm going to, okay, and now I'm going to use some acrylic paint, some yellow, and I'm going to come in here and put some of this yellow in, and when it mixes with the blue, it's going to make a green. I'm going to go ahead and put some of this yellow in. See how that pops? I put that yellow in there. And put some yellow in here. Put it over here. And I am using, as you can tell, a smaller brush. I'm going to come over here and put some yellow. This is going to be a come back here, put some more yellow in, going straight up and down over these lines that I put in, like a long grass or something sticking out. And you will, unless you add a medium to your acrylic, you're not going to get the bright luminosity that you get with oil paints. But if, you know, I could have added some a medium to this, but I figured probably most of you would not have that at home. So I'm just using basically just acrylic paint. I'm just adding water to the paint. Now I'm coming in with a little bit brighter green, and I'm just going to drop that in some places. You don't have to. If you like the yellow look, you could just leave the yellow in there. I'm going to leave some of the yellow. I'm not going to get rid of all of it. Bring some of this out here. And then perhaps toward the bottom, I'm going to put a darker kind of blue-green in down here. Kind of brush that up. Still pretty bright over here, so I'm going to kind of darken that up a little bit. There we go. Maybe add a little more water there so that white underneath it can show through. I had the paint just a little bit too thick. Okay, now I'm still wanting to do a little something back there with those ones that are standing up. Now for my trees, where is my husband? What do you think, Max? Leave the trees blue?
Oh, I would.
Or do something.
It looks really good.
Okay, so I'm going to add maybe just a little bit more of the bright green and some of these lines here. I like the way that just kind of pops. Pull it out here a little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to do all of them. There'll still be some that are the kind of blue-green. Lighten this up. If you get your paint too thick, it will cover the white. Wipe that back off. And I did get the paint a little too thick on this side. So you can just add water to that and thin it out. And I think that looks a little bit better. I might add just a little bit of this darker green in different spots. Maybe up here. And now I'm thinking I got too much of the dark green there, so I'm going to add some yellow. So if you don't like your darker color, you can go back in with a brighter color like a yellow or something and lighten that up a little bit. There, I think that's looking better. And maybe just a little bit of yellow up in here, a few of them. Got a lot of green over here, but this is a thicker forested area than this one over here. I got more trees over here. So this is a glaze again, and I think I'm going to call the grass part done. So now we're going to put in the moon. Again, as I've said, probably the hardest part of all this painting is getting all these little tree limbs in and everything. So to put the moon in, I'm going to use a paper towel and some gesso. And how about right here? I think that might be a good spot. I'm gonna have kind of a round area. And then we're gonna kind of just pull that out a little bit. And I'm going to go back and darken the center. I'll put more white in the center. Right now I'm just going to kind of go around. Ooh, I just saw something. These little dots out here, they almost look like stars in the background.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be messing with that. Okay, so whoops, got another moon down there. Did not mean to put that moon in there. I need some clean water. Oh my gosh, that's just getting bigger. Maybe I should just make that the moon. What I'm curious about is how I got the white there and I didn't cover the tree branches. No, I wanted this wet. Oh, don't pull that out.
I'm just sitting under it.
Oh no, this is okay. Okay, I'm gonna have to cover that up. All right, so I'm moving my moon. So we're just gonna cover over this area and just pull it out. darken this sky up a little bit. Okay, so we're going to leave it like that. Okay, so now what I've done is I went ahead and dried it, and I've decided I like this little moon down here so much I'm not going to do anything to it. I'm not going to put any moonbeams or anything, just going to leave it right like that. But down here I am thinking I want a little bit different colors, maybe other than just the green and the yellow. So I'm going to come in and just put a little bit of other color. This is some sienna, and I think I'm going to put a little bit of brown in. This is burnt umber, and maybe just put a little bit of that in both spots, just to give me some depth. This might be like in the fall where the grass is changing from the green to the brown. I think I'm going to call it quits. So this one's done. And as I said before, I am going to be working on other paintings using this technique. And I hope you'll join me to watch them. Thank you.